Mr. Paolo, thank you so much for joining us at Crypto Weekly.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So I would like to start with very interesting news, and that is Tether is to provide a new stablecoin pegged to the UAE Dirham. Just tell us about the rationale behind this plans, and why did you choose UAE, and what does it mean for the adoption of stablecoins in the UAE and in the region as well?
Absolutely. So Tether created the first stablecoin in 2014, was pegged to the US dollar. The US dollar is and was the most used currency in the world. 60% of the global trade is performed in US dollars. But also we see the necessity, also thinking about the current geopolitical changes that are happening around the world, about the necessity of offering optionality to our customer base. USDT is being used by more than 350 million people around the world, especially in emerging markets, developing countries. And of course, the US dollar is a very, very strong currency. But we cannot deny that UAE is flourishing. I know personally many people, many companies that are moving here, that are for sure crypto related, but also trade, finance related, financial markets, hedge funds. So it shows how good politics can actually change the future of a country. So we are very excited to see this is happening in UAE, and given the fact that UAE have a really little debt compared to all the other important countries like Europe and European countries and US. This gives the comfort to holders that they can hold a currency that will not debase very quickly as others that are used to. Think about Argentina, think about Turkey and Brazil and Vietnam and so on and so forth. So we believe that among all the other fiat currencies, apart the US dollar that we could choose, the UAE Dirham is the best one to create our new stablecoin.
And on this point, Paolo, obviously the fact that we have in the UAE that UAE Dirham is pegged to the US dollar, I know in the past Tether has tried with numerous different other currencies that you guys have launched over the years. Do you believe this fact, that the fact that it is pegged to the US dollar, could help the adoption and the growth of a new Tether AD that you guys are looking at launching?
So definitely helps as a way to onboard users, because it makes it easier, makes people more comfortable. You know, the ratio between the two is fixed. So when you have to price for merchants, for example, is very important. But I think that the most important selling point is, in fact, the stability of the country, the security, the fact that it's neutral. So is almost like UAE is the new Switzerland, and is also a very important corridor between the East and the West, and this corridor is growing by the day. So it's a game changer.
So tell us a little bit about the functionality of a stablecoin with the UAE Dirham. I mean, is there going to be a collaboration with the UAE Central Bank? What kind of licensing do you need to issue the stablecoin?
In the last few weeks, the central bank has released the guidelines and the framework for obtaining a license to launch AD pegged stablecoins. So we are working on those guidelines. We are going to submit our application. It will take a few months to get to the point where we are going to get regulated. Of course, in order to achieve that, we need to make the central bank comfortable with all our security processes when it comes to the tax security, audits of the tax, audits and auditability of the reserves, cash management. All that part has to be ready to be reviewed in the deepest form by the central bank in order for them to get comfortable. But we think that with our technology and with our internal processes, it should be very easy for them to see the quality of our work.
As the former CTO of Tether, you know that topic very, very well. I just want to take a step back, Paolo, and when you think about the future, you look at 5, 10, 15 years down the line, where do you see the continuous growth of the stablecoin ecosystem? Do you believe it's going to continue happening in emerging markets? Do you believe certain corridors, like you mentioned, like, for example, what's happening in the Middle East, could be the catalyst? Where do you see the growth of the ecosystem in 5, 10, 15 years?
Look, I mean, I think that Tether is the leading company in the space because it understood one important thing is when you create a new product, that is a glass of water, a table, whatever, you have to understand one most important thing, is the product market fit. Who is going to be your user? And I think that we understood it really well from the beginning. The vast majority of the people in emerging markets and developing countries need a stable coin that is pegged to a different currency than their local currency. The Argentina peso lost 98% of its value against the dollar in 5-6 years. The Turkish lira lost 80% of its value against the US dollar in the last 5-6 years. So more and more, imagine you work very hard in these countries, you save your money in the local currency. At the end of the year, you are poorer compared to the beginning of the year, right? So you need to be able to save in some other currency. And not everyone has access to bank accounts. You know, there are 5 billion people in the world living in high inflation countries, and 3 billion people are living in countries where live in countries that have really difficult access to the banking system. 3 billion people in the world are unbanked. Not because they are bad people, just because they are too poor of being interest of the banking system. So they are using stable coins to have access to a checking account and a saving account and a way of mean of payment and mean of wealth saving that maybe in richer countries we are used to. So I think that will continue. The way I describe it is that for me, USDT is linked to the US dollar, but imagine myself going and selling USDT in the US is like selling a bucket of ice to an Eskimo, right? So in the US you have Venmo, PayPal, credit cards, debit cards, bank accounts, Cash App.
All these other options.
Exactly. So you don't need us, but there are billions and billions of people that don't have that optionality, and we are offering that to them.
It's an election year. Everybody's talking about that. And Mr. Trump, the Republican candidate, has made some quite interesting promises when it comes to what is now being called a cryptoverse. He's talking mainly about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Do you think that this is something realistic? Do you think that the US needs that? And what does that mean for the crypto in general?
So there is an unfortunate part that crypto and the technology behind crypto is becoming a political issue. Ideally, you would like to see that both parties would understand the importance of a technology like blockchain and crypto in general. You know, I'm Italian. I grew up when in my youth, when I was looking at watching movies and reading anything, I could see the US dominating every single technology, always being at the forefront of every technology. And it feels like in the case of crypto, the US is dropping the ball a little bit, and I'm not sure what Trump will do and what Harris will do or the Democrats will do. So what I'm saying is it's unfortunate that has to come to a political battle, because actually it's technology. Technology should not be related to one party and the other, and it should be used as a way to progress a country. I'm a Bitcoiner as well, so I'm happy to see the recognition that Bitcoin is getting in 2024. There was it's the year of the Bitcoin ETF. Bitcoin is more and more understood by an institutional crowd, and that is something that was meant to happen. We never knew when it was going to happen, and it's here we are.
You know, it's very interesting as well. You mentioned, especially that Donald Trump, in one of his promises, said that he wants to come up with a regulatory framework for US dollar stablecoins. So let's see whether that happens. But I want to ask you about CBDCs, Paolo, central bank digital currencies. You know, many would say that stablecoins are continuing their growth until the day there's a US dollar CBDC. What's your view of the interaction we're going to have with CBDCs and stablecoins? Do you think one will replace the other, they will cohabitate, or actually you think we're so far from having mainstream adoption of the CBDCs, especially in emerging markets, actually?
Well, I think that when it comes, if you live in emerging markets, you will still look for a currency that is different than your local currency that you can rely on. So I don't think that will change. If I know that certain parties in the U.S. and both the Democrats and Republicans are trying to pass some bills that would prevent the government to launch, or the Fed to launch, a CBDC. It's quite scary, especially if launched from a government as powerful as the U.S., because that would be the first time that the central bank and the state would have access to every single transaction that any person would make. Today, if you have a credit card, you go and purchase a coffee somewhere, yeah, that transaction is between you and the bank or the issuer of the debit card. But if you use a CBDC, every single transaction you make is going to be potentially reviewed directly by the central bank and the government. So it's almost a way to geolocate people and understand their exact habits and control potentially people. So that is very, very scary. So I don't think it will happen anytime soon, at least when it comes to the US. Europe is discussing about the digital euro, but in a very reduced form, up to 5,000 euros per wallet. Very limited use case, also because a CBDC could kill banks. You know, they said, or crypto crowd said for such a long time, we are going to kill the banks. Actually, a CBDC will kill the banks. So I think that there is this understanding from the political side that it could be very unpredictable, the result of launching a CBDC.
And that takes me to another point, is that to what extent are stable coins and their concept is changing what central banks, what investment banking know about liquidity? I mean, when you look at liquidity models for investment banks, for central banks, to what extent do you think that we need new liquidity models, liquidity strategies to cope with the existence of stable coins?
Well, let me give you the example of USDT, right? Because it's very, very real. So with USDT, we have more than $100 billion in US Treasury bills, in short-term US Treasury bills. Think about China had around $2 trillion 2-3 years ago in US Treasury bills, and now has $700 billion, give or take. A company like Tether, that is a private company, has more US Treasury bills holdings compared to UAE itself, compared to Australia and Spain.
So we're talking about countries here.
Exactly. If we are not a country, right? So it's quite interesting how it's turning out. But let's think about what does it mean, right? If the US government sells its debt to counterparties, the biggest counterparties are countries. Countries have a Minister of Finance and they have a committee. They can decide to start selling holdings of USD bills, right? So what Tether does, and not many people think about it, is we have decentralized the ownership and decision-making of selling the US debt. We have 350 every time a person in Argentina purchases some USDT, we take that money and we buy T-bills. So we have 350 million. The decision to sell T-bills is decided by 350 million people.
You're not a government.
We are not a government, but also we are just a proxy. So we are not taking the decision. They are deciding. So it's much, much stronger. So we are helping the US dollar to become stronger, more resilient, more decentralized. It's something that is unprecedented. And I'm really proud that Tether was able to start that.
I think Trump is going to be happy about this news, Henry, that at least China doesn't have to do anything with it anymore.
Exactly. The irony of this is, again, China is not involved in this, but I think it's made it very interesting. You're right, because you're reinforcing you're democratizing the way access to US dollars. Maybe to finish it off, Paolo, I know you've been with Tether now since 2014. You were CTO before becoming CEO. On a personal level, what has surprised you the most? Obviously, there's all the business headlines. You guys last month announced a partnership with Phoenix Group. I remember last April you announced something with Ton, with the whole group as well. What is what personally, at a human level, has surprised you the most in your journey with Tether and the adoption of stablecoins around the world?
Well, I think the beauty of Tether, our company, is that it's made by simple people that had an idea in 2014. The idea was, again, very simple. Take blockchain, that was the technological layer created by Bitcoin, and put on top of it the most used fiat currency in the world, the US dollar. And that idea grew from nothing to $117 billion and more, as we are seeing in these days. And the team is still very humble. Of course, we grew our headcount, but we still believe that our core mission is actually democratizing the access to financial services to billions of people. So our core philosophy throughout all the battles that we had, throughout all the complexities of making this product be understood, didn't change. We are the same people. Many people are asking me, oh, are you going to go public and have an exit? No. We believe that there is so much to do, so much to build, so much to improve, and we are going to stay here for the long future.
Wish you the best of luck with everything that you do.
And hopefully having you back at Crypto Weekly with more new developments in the region and globally as well.
Yes, of course, we're going to have you again, Mr. Paolo. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Paolo Ardoino, CEO of Tether, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paolo.